Hello, everybody. Hello, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. This is a game I won just recently. We're going to go over this game first, and I think we're also going to go over this game that I won board but timed out, unfortunately, and played some great chess on the way there. So we're probably going to go over this game that I played uh, close to a half hour, maybe 40 minutes ago. Uh, so here's the game we just finished. My opponent Ruben and I came to a conclusion on this, and I thought there's some ideas worth going over. E4, C6, so we're in the Caro-Kann. C4, there's a lot of different ways to arrive at these types of C pawn and E pawn both teaming up on D5. You throw a knight C3 in there, and that he's helping to, you know, push things. So some of these things, sometimes I call these corner tactics. Like on the queen side, a few corner tactics, and we might make white might build up against c6. So pawn to d5, c takes d, c takes d, e takes d, queen takes d, and then, as is often the case, uh, white develops knight to c3 with tempo against the queen. Queen moves, this case to d8. A5 is seen often in things like the Steiner variation of the French, or the Scandinavian defense, and whatever we've gotten into here after the Caro-Kann. Moves like Queen A5 are common. Moves back to D8 are common. Moves to E5 with check are common. I advise blocking with the queen. You could try with the bishop, and that's also not so bad. But so this is, this is where is one of the early points where things really branch out and branch out quite a bit. Pawn to D4, knight F6, pawn to D5. I don't know how to explain this. If you want to analyze this position, I'll show the torch 4 work here, the computer work here. I like to play d5 here. It's worked well for me. There could be a liquidation on d5. Knight takes, knight takes. No, there can't be. Right, no, excuse me. Black will be unable to liquidate on d5, and you're just getting this slight bit of control of c6, right on the early side, right when black's worried about, now I can't, play pawn to e5 without losing my e pawn en passant, right? So we're creeping in against c6. All right, some good developing moves. I'll hold on. I'll consider bishop b5 check to be a fine move until I check torch 4's say so, and it looks like there were some moves better than that, as we saw with the inaccuracy. Knight f3, interestingly. And then knight ge2. I won't play knight ge2. It blocks in this bishop is against the whole purpose of moves like d5 and having this diagonal from a4 to e8 open for white to play a check against black's king. Yeah, so I won't play knight g to e2. However, knight f3 is an interesting thing. Is white says, so what? I got more space on the queen side. My pieces are developed in ways that make a lot of sense. I'll play knight f3. It's just like any other game, knight f3 has happened before. So that's an interesting say so by torch. In the game I played bishop b5 check. I think it's a little bit more forcing, and it's in some ways it's a little bit easier for white to play this way. Knight f to d7. I think that's not a great move. Knight b to d7, on the other hand, is a fine move. I'm pretty sure that's going to be one of the top. Yeah, so Torch agrees with that. I would play knight b to e7 here. The moving the knight you've already moved. It's like, well, why? You really need to overload the black's middle area with that many pieces or something. I don't know. It's just weird. Wastes time. Okay, waste a bit of time. Knight at F to D7, and I'll pile on. Um, Queen to A4. White is starting to build some pressure on. In this case, it turned out to be D7. I mean, because C6 is not even in play. This isn't even a contest on C6. So then instead, keeping this pin on the knight, or having enough power eventually to have enough pieces eventually to overpower that knight and his defenses. The interesting thing about this is moves like A6 don't bother white yet. Because if A6 and then let's say there's A6 and white plays knight to F3, and then black says, okay, I'll take this bishop with my pawn and get a bishop. You do get the bishop, then white gets the rook on A8 because there is a pin along the A file there. It's kind of a strange pin, if you will. It's strange that a queen would be pinning a pawn against a rook, and that the pawn would be going after the bishop. It's a little bit weird, right? That's not the way a lot of pins work, but it works that way well enough. So A6, my opponent does exactly that to show that A6 to try to pressure my bishop away. I just ignore it. So far, I can just ignore it, and black has a ton of problems to work through. The knight on B8, how's he gonna develop? And that goes back to what I said earlier about the F knight going to D7. No, not under best play. The B knight going to D7 maybe under best play, or at least close to it. So this knight is just stuck here against moving on top of his own piece, which we know he can't do. On top of his own piece, which we know he can't do, and to a square that white has controlled since the dawn of time. So, this is not. This isn't looking good for black. Most of it is the development issue on the queen side and highlighting the knight on B8. Pawn to E6, knight to E5. We get a question mark for that. There's got to be a couple ways that black can exploit that move. And so I would think maybe just D takes E6 instead is probably safer under tournament time controls, meaning under classical tournament time controls. But I played knight to E5, and my opponent seems failed to capitalize. I say yes, because the bishop's here on D6, but I can dump this knight, not in a mean way, but dump the knight on D7, and there's a recapture, and now things are under pressure again, but bishop to D6 now it's still a good developing move, but there are other things that black might need to be that black should be concerned with here. And I think I liquidate all the pieces after all that. What does white get out of it? Well, we've seen that I played some inaccurate plays there, but the black's king is confused. Where is he? Why is he on D7 of all places? Right? There's tension here on pawns on D5 and E6. That if white can resolve this favorably, then maybe there's a pin. We've got we only need one move to complete development. So overall, it's mostly even. I'd say white's king is a lot safer. Black has the bishop pair. Yeah, it's mostly even. Rook c8, and then D takes e6 check, F takes e6, bishop e3, h4. Torch says it's fine as far as an excellent move. honestly, were I playing black, I would start in on doubling some rooks on the C file. You have the doubled rooks there, and then yeah, okay, my knight is plugging that file from being completely open, but there's the pawns are both missing, so it is an open file. My knight's there or not, and looky here, we have this bishop on d6 that could attack from e5, and this bishop on d6 that could attack from b4. Get a real strong attack going against this. If I flee, then maybe a rook comes to c2. We're looking to double on the 2 file. We're getting way ahead of ourselves, but in terms of plan, you would think about things like that. I would think about things like that. We all moving on. Rook to d1, pinning the bishop is fine. This is a strong move. And now the king moves to e7, and I'm preparing to double. The move rook d8 runs into a skewer, which I actually delayed. And here it says this is the only good move. I was wondering, because yeah, we have to protect the sometimes we have to protect our own rook here by doubling, because if we try I'm not so sure about that. Let me go back. Here with white to move, okay? If we play bishop to g5 check, it's not quite as good. It's almost as good. Okay, well, fine. And bishop to g5 gets this skewer going right away, but rook to d1 was because I was under time pressure. I didn't see the skewer right away, but also a happy accident. All right, so doubled rooks on the d file are strong, and white plays bishop g5 check. Black is bleeding material and equal trades on top. This pawn can't be defended adequately, so I was looking at pawn to b5, but white has an extra rook. If pawn to b5, probably pawn to a3. It's on a dark square where my opponent's bishop cannot, harass or hurry the pawn. So too are these other pieces. So we're really strong against this light squared bishop, and it looks like black's gonna probably lose a pawn or two pretty soon. The g7 pawn is weak. Like we know it's black's turn, but the b7 pawn is weak, and my opponent is sort of playing, like we say sometimes, out of inertia to continue with what has already begun. It has a special meaning in physics that's far more detailed and specific. I get specific. It has a special meaning in physics. So here, yes, I took time to make sure that after this capture, rook takes e5, does my opponent have a move? And I saw king to d4. And now I see upon review also all these moves with the bishop, but you don't always think that right away when you're playing. It's the temptation maybe to look at your opponent's king, see if your opponent's king has a move to keep him out of stalemate. Here's another one, king to b4. So you want to make sure that there's at least one move, so I don't draw this game where I'm, look at the board, I'm going to win. So I took time to do that. I captured anyway. And we can even see how long it took me. 6 seconds or something. My opponent resigns. I had fun. I played a heck of a game. So I was glad to share it with you all here. Alright, now this game was a little bit, sometimes we would say tighter. I mean, look at this, at the course of the game. It's even till about move 11. That's strong. And then just the slow dissipation of white's evaluation and this slow growth of Black's evaluation of the position. Okay, with the previewed some of the game, I'll go over this game not in extreme detail, but we'll, we'll we'll find some ideas here to talk about. Yeah. So we're doubling pawns here all the way. My opponent takes away from the center, maybe to be quicker on pawn grab at c4. Should I initiate with d takes c4? Bishop takes c4. Not only that, but g takes f3 there is not all that great because then there's this half-open file on the side that Black is most likely going to castle towards. Towards which White is most likely to castle. Some pressure build up. I think. I thought White was doing well there. It turns out otherwise. Liquidate some pieces. And yeah, so here I saw, I'm doing better on time than I usually am at, around move 20. We're at move 17 here. That didn't enter into my thinking, but could have. And with the move queen to a8, I wanted to trade queens. Was pretty darn sure that this pawn would fall. Not only that, but that White's rooks are hitting at a really tough grind here with a pawn wall that extends from f7 to d5. Trade of queens. And Black is doing well. We're out of the opening. We're actually in an early, I think you could call this an early end game. A lot of pieces were traded in the first 20 moves, first 19 moves, first 20 moves. And, with White has the move. But then in terms of initiative, you also notice that Black has a lift already. So it's a game. It's a rook and pawn end game, and I think Black has the better of it. Also, going back to here, Black's 18th move, Queen A8, playing to my strengths. Double rook end games like this, I know most of my book on this, so let's see if my opponent with 2 minutes and 19 seconds can make hay out in this position. Two mistakes though. Let's take a look here. Here with Black to move, we might have wanted to tie things up with rook a3. I didn't want to just become a standstill with enough defense and enough attack, both against a2. So I kind of, I don't know. Torch is suggesting rook a4. I don't know, I like what I played. I like this move anyway. Rook to c2, we're playing in ideas. And how exactly is White going to keep from losing this pawn? Well, either a3 or even better, a4. But then we renew the threat later on in this two-move maneuver to get to a5. And White is going to lose the a pawn. It's this daring idea here. Rook to c1 looks like we should be scared of it, like there's going to be some kind of back rank checkmate, or we capture on a4 and then we're not able to, save our own rook by capturing back with our other rook. But if you look at the position here, it's not there. It's just frankly not there. We can go on with our plan as planned. Trade of rooks, and Black is doing very, very well. And just making a point out of the fact that White will have to, for some time, guard f2. I think that maybe the idea to move to d3 was a little bit ahead of itself. We'll make White guard f2, and then I decide Black's king is going to help in the defense of his own pawns. Is helping his own cause. You say that when a National League baseball player, as a pitcher, hits a home run, they say it's helping his own cause. I think are the words used. It happens once in a while, and it's strong, helping to support his own run support, I guess. Okay, but here on the chessboard, helping our own cause by controlling important squares along the C file. Rook A3 check. Rook A4 check. Rook takes F4. Alright, so we're now 2 pawns up. We've got excellent control of the C file, even though our rook is free hunting out other things, other pawns over here. With time running out, though, as black has only 44 seconds, my opponent has 52 more seconds on his clock, with a time of 1 minute and 36 seconds left. So we're finding moves, we're finding ways to improve the position despite the time glitch. Here I wasn't sure, but I thought, hey, rook takes h3 could be nice, could be a good move, and f3 puts me to the test. Moving things along and giving this important check to white's king so I can escape the H file, or at least make note that I could if I wanted to. Instead I play the more accurate move, rook to f2. Rook takes f3 check. Another check to keep things hot. And instead of repeating the position, I said, oh heck, let's go for it. I'm going to go for the win and pick up some last few important pieces. We see that, under time pressure, some decent fortress building and accurate pawn pushing. This was extremely frustrating here to run out of time when I did. Let's play this out. It'll help me feel some closure about this game. Oh, well, yeah, I'm in a bit of a stalemate trap here. I'm not sure. Let's see. Back when this started, rook takes h4 check. I played king f5. King e3 is suggested. Then there's this move. What if I... King d3 is best. I'm not sure this is doable here. We'll go back a couple moves and it will definitely be doable. Okay. Oopsies. All right. Just want to get the results of this. Although there's a lot of there were takebacks, and I viewed some of the best move hints and all that. So not the hints, but so we're gonna take a look here. How accurate it was. It should be quite accurate because a lot of it's uh, hint versus computer. Hint versus computer. Right. So yeah, accurate. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.